create a piece of fan content, a video edit a la TikTok. That will give me an indication whether or not you have what it takes.
Create fan content a la editors on TikTok. Kate Pattison, you've set me a challenge and a half for this trial because I'm not passionate about anything. I just don't care about a lot of things. But that's not the attitude we want to take into a trial about whether or not I would be a good professional fan. I've done the video, it's live on TikTok. Let's see what Kate Pattison thinks of it. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, I want to tell you about Kate Pattison and being involved in the book Taylor Swift, Culture, Capital and Critique. If there's one person to talk about fandom, it's the guest on this episode, Kate Pattison. You can buy the book and also get in touch with Kate Pattison through the guest tab at workexperiencekid.com. Not only for Taylor Swift, anything in the fandom world. And maybe you could even get in touch with her on TikTok to see if you have what it takes to become a fan. Now we should get into it. Kate Pattison, thank you so much for joining me back on the Work Experience Kid podcast. Professional fan is just one of the strings to your bow or arrows to your quill, as they say. You sent me the challenge to create fan content. Can you tell me a little bit about what you're after in this challenge?
Yes, so your task was to create a piece of fan content, and I think we decided probably the best one for you to do would be to do a fan edit, so like a video edit on TikTok or Instagram or one of those social media platforms. And essentially this challenge was to see if you have some of the creative skills to be a fan, but also to help you kind of decide whether there's something you're passionate about or if there's a particular subject matter that you might like to make something of, or if you just want to do it on yourself as kind of a challenge to see how those skills might come to life. So keen to see how it's all turned out.
As I said in the intro, I'm not passionate about many things. So your little idea that you had was do it on myself. So I thought I'll do it on myself. If you can't be your own fan, who can be your fan or something like that? Surely there's something inspirational from Buddha there. I also figured, looking at some of the stimulus you sent me, I saw that they were using existing footage, from concerts or, like paparazzi style footage that is not their own. And I was like, well, I have footage on myself as I've been trying to promote this podcast and just being silly in general. So that is the reason why I've done it on myself.
And something you just brought up there is exactly what fans do, which is they basically remix existing content. Obviously, they're not out there filming their favorite celebrities, well, not very often, perhaps if they're at a concert or something. So yeah, the majority of the ways that fans are creative is exactly that. It's like taking stuff you've already got and then sort of remixing it or reusing it in a different way. So in that way, that is a very fan thing to do.
Patto, you sent me a handful of ideas in an email to give me some inspiration. Can you tell us a little bit about what the kind of content we're looking at when it comes to fan content? And then we'll talk a little bit about what I did.
Yeah, so I sent you a few different examples, mostly pop music, because that's obviously my forte. But there was one of Miss Taylor Swift, and essentially what fans often do is they'll find an early interview with somebody. So this was like Taylor as a 14, 15-year-old giving a quote about the type of career that she'd love to have and the artists that she's inspired by. And then they sort of splice together a montage of then, Taylor now in her 30s being super successful and, engaging with other fans. So often that'll be kind of like a narrative arc of some of the fan works. We also had one with Harry Styles, previously was in One Direction. There are lots of funny kind of behind the scenes videos of One Direction when they, were producing their albums and on X Factor and all of that. And so a fan in this case had done sort of a Harry Styles core type video where they spliced together, some out of context funny clips of Harry from different interviews and behind the scenes. We had a Lady Gaga edit, which actually got her song Bloody Mary back into the charts over a decade later, which was where a fan had taken a clip of Jenna Ortega dancing in Wednesday, the popular Netflix show, and sort of instead of using the song that was in the show, had used a montage of her dancing to a Lady Gaga song that then became quite popular and trended again. But probably my favorite was, because these fan edits are so popular, at the moment on platforms like TikTok. There was a girl who basically asked the fan editors of TikTok if they could make fan edits of her, and she basically provided them with some, candid B-roll shots of her, and then a bunch of fan editors then kind of edited together her clips in a similar fashion to the way they would about, Taylor, Harry, BTS, whoever it might be. So yeah, there's a real kind of range. I take it you took inspiration from some of those.
I took inspiration from the last one that you just said, just a random girl saying, hey, can you please make some fan content out of me? And the Harry Styles one. And
Yes.
I've spliced together some footage of me along with a Taylor Swift song. I unfortunately can't play the video because it is very video heavy. And also a Taylor Swift song comes into copyright issue. So to describe it first, I'll tell everyone what I did. So along with quick edits, I discovered that there were really shitty transitions used by fans. So when you're editing content in TikTok, it gives you the option to use transitions. So I just used any random transition between one clip and another. And my training in TV editing is you never use a transition unless there's a reason for it. So it really killed me to do a little bit of that. So that was the only other thing to add in terms of trying to paint the visual, like a really shit transition where the video comes in and out and sort of glitches a little bit, and then it has one clip, and then another one might be sort of spinning kind of vibe. Now, I know it is a audio medium right now, so if you do want to check out the video, you can do so on TikTok at Skipper Dogood, SkipperDood, or on the Work Experience Kid Instagram, WEK Podcast. Patto, I always like to ask the question in the results part of this trial. Along with how did I go, would you hire me if it came to fan content creation?
So I watched your TikTok, Skip, and I think it's got some real potential. I think, as you mentioned, obviously you use some transitions, which is a big part of a lot of fan edits. Obviously, it's not meant to sort of mimic, your TV production. It's meant to be its own kind of form of content, which was great. And I think the way that you sort of positioned yourself as the object of fandom here and did your sort of version of, I think it was Iain energy or something like that was the caption, was great, because that obviously demonstrates to people who might not know you the kind of personality that you have, and that is another kind of aspect of fan content. I think to be a professional fan, as you mentioned earlier in this interview, is part of it is obviously being obsessed with something. And I think when you do have that thing, whether it's, obviously great to be obsessed with yourself. That's part of, getting out there and trying to get promoted and trying to get a new job, is to do that personal branding exercise. So I think if in the future you find a TV show, a sports team, a movie, something that you just become completely fixated with, I think you have all of the tools now that you need to be a professional fan. But I think that's the one step and then you'll be there. So I think you could intern for me at this point, and then we can go from there.
Okay, well, it's good to see that I have the skills to at least do this job if I was passionate about something. And I need to just double down on the part that I'm not obsessed with myself, because it does feel that way doing this Iain Duguid energy on TikTok and putting it out into the world, and people are like, who is this guy? He loves himself sick. But good to see that I have the skills to at least intern for you, Patto.
Yes.
To take this even further, right now on a job advertising platform that I won't name unless they sponsor the pod, there are 0 professional fan jobs available Australia-wide. So how might one get a job in an area that doesn't seem to exist?
Yes. So, fandom as a kind of profession is something that's definitely kind of emerging over the last few years. So, as you said, there's very rarely a job ad that comes up that speaks directly about fandom. But I guess to my prior point, I think obviously if you're a fan of sport or if you're a fan of music, there might be different job opportunities in each of those industries. So I think if you're a really big fan of a footy team or a netball team, a sports team, I would be looking at jobs within those industries to be digital content creators, journalists, other people making content about the thing that you love. Similarly, on the music side, occasionally you might see a record label, a radio station, somebody like that. A podcast is an excellent example of somebody working in the field of the thing that you love, advertising for a different kind of content job. So generally speaking, I'd say that's probably the best place to start. Look for digital content jobs in the sort of industry or for the particular team or person, ideally, that you are obsessed with. And then, I think other than that, we just have to keep our eye out. I have seen the occasional fan engagement role come up. I think there was one for Formula One, actually, internationally a few years ago. And there are a few, I think Universal Music had one maybe end of last year. So I think keep an eye out. But yes, they are very few and far between. So it's definitely going to be one to watch, I think, in the coming years.
That's a really helpful direction for anyone who wants to become a fan. And for someone like me, maybe going a little bit broader and just do digital content might be a good start.
Yeah, definitely.
Going back onto fandom itself, in your interview, you said how there are so many benefits, and you just touched on it now as well, how companies and big brands or bigger brands are using fandom to their advantage. Do you think we'll continue to see a shift and fandom will become an even bigger part of a business?
I think so. I think the more that sort of social media and the internet develops, the more we're starting to see, the types of content like you created this week, and whether it's for fans, whether it's for brands, we're seeing a lot of that type of fan content at the forefront of internet culture. And I think, unless some other platform comes in and takes over TikTok, I mean, one of the things fans do so well is they kind of adopt their practices and their creativity for new technology as it comes in. So I do think that if anything, it's just going to get even bigger. So I think if you're interested in fandom, definitely hone in on those skills and kind of promote that, I think, when you are going for job interviews, because I think definitely for the foreseeable future, it's something that's still going to be a really big part of digital content moving forward.
Okay, that's some great advice. Speaking of advice, what advice might you give to somebody who wants to become a professional fan like yourself?
With fandom in general, obviously it's very passion focused. And so I think if you do have a passion for something, again, it could be music, it could be sport, it could be literature, it could be fantasy books, whatever it could be, is I would say start either writing or talking about it. So, maybe you start a Substack, maybe you start a podcast, maybe you are making content on TikTok or Instagram or one of those platforms, because I think positioning yourself as an expert in that particular way is really useful, because then when the time comes, as I found when, Taylor Swift pandemonium hit Melbourne last year, is then all of a sudden people are like, hey, we need a girl who can talk about Taylor Swift. This girl looks like she can do it. Let's get her on. So I think it's really useful. I think even if the job opportunities that you might have don't exist right now, is if it's something that you do want to pursue and you're interested in, is kind of keep up that regular communication about the thing that you love in whatever format suits you best. When I was at university, I had no idea that I would get into doing a PhD and doing research. Social media content jobs didn't exist at that time. And so I kind of did things I was interested in, and then everything kind of eventually fell into place. So I think don't be disheartened if the job, your dream job doesn't exist right now. It might in a few years' time. And just talk to people who have jobs that you are interested in, as you're doing on this podcast. I've definitely found that speaking to people who are doing things that I think are really cool is really useful, and you never know where those networks could get you in the future when some of those jobs or opportunities do pop up.
And I guess to add in some additional thought there, if you're looking to create your own fan content, maybe follow some fans in an area that you're interested in, and, not necessarily copy them, but take inspiration from what they're doing and do it yourself, put your own twist and spin on it. And Patto, I guess that's how you became Australia's voice for Taylor Swift.
Seems to be that way at the moment. But I think, as you said, that's great advice. Learn from other fans. A lot of them are really happy to help. They'll often post tutorials, and it's a great way to kind of hone your craft while you're doing other stuff. And then, who knows what could come from it in the future.
And now you're giving some great advice here. I want to see if you have received any valuable advice. Have you received anything directly from, anywhere in the fan sphere, but also just in general life?
I mean, I think a big one is just to not be ashamed of the things that you are passionate about. I think, particularly when you are not a teenager anymore, and people are getting married and having babies and buying houses and all these really exciting stuff. Sometimes it can be difficult maybe to put things in perspective when you're, chasing things in your career or doing other things. But I think sort of celebrating those achievements as you get them is great, but also, just being sort of unashamed of the things that you're interested in, because they can be super fulfilling. You can find a really great community. And I think the people along the way, whether they've been uni tutors, supervisors, friends who have kind of encouraged me to do that, that's kind of got me to where I am now. So don't be ashamed of the things you love. It's probably my parting words.
I think that has been a common thread with some of the guests so far, but also reminds me of, this is probably more your domain to be saying. Addison Rae said something along the lines of, you have to get through the cringe, and then you can finally, hopefully, see the results. And now she's singing about Diet
Climb
Pepsi.
Cringe Mountain.
Cringe Mountain, yeah.
Yes.
I guess it comes to the point of the episode where I decide whether this job is for me. Obviously, I need to become passionate about something, so that is making it less attainable for me. I kind of enjoyed making the content, and again, to clarify, it's not because I was just looking at me for an hour or however long it was. It was kind of fun just making it. So making content, okay, that's fine. I'll put that in the yes pile. But the fan content itself, I can't say that being a fan is for me, because I just found it all sorts of weird. As I said earlier, the transitions, the type of edits, it just doesn't really gel with me. Maybe if I found my own style and niche, that would make it a bit more positive. And then, as we've discussed, I need to become more passionate about something. So I think for the moment, unless I can find something that I'm passionate about, super passionate about, being a professional fan might be off the list, but the content creation is still on the list. So I'm going to put it in the maybe pile, just because there was parts of it that I liked and parts of it that I didn't like. Kate Pattison, I'm not stealing your job. Thank you so much for helping me learn what it takes to become a professional fan.
Happy to have helped out. Thank you so much for having me.
We might have narrowed it down ever so slightly. Content creation might be a good area for me, but I still want to talk to more people about what they do, so subscribe so you hear that chat. And remember the website, workexperiencekid.com.